Hey, welcome into Moringa for Life. We are excited to have a live episode for you. We are talking Moringalicious for healthy living, longevity, and wellness with renowned Malaysian author Mohana Gill. Mohana, so great to see you.
Good morning. Lovely to see you. Greetings from Malaysia. We have a little, we're going to show you our Malaysian flag.
Nice.
Greetings
Let's
from Malaysia.
represent.
Yes.
Red, white, and blue as well. I like it.
Yes. Red, white, and blue as well. Yes.
All right. You and I have a lot to talk about. We're going to be here for the next 45 minutes or an hour. Please, anybody who's watching this live, jump into the comments. Let us know your own Moringa story, your own Moringa vision. And we're going to be talking about your book, Moringalicious, which releases now and
Yes.
available on Amazon. We'll throw some links into the comments for
Yes.
everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, show us the cover. Let's see it. Moringalicious looks amazing. I like the new stickers that you have on there,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes.
what did we win? A Gourmand International. Another? How many do you have? Nine
Yes.
Gourmand International
Yeah.
Cookbook
Nine to
Awards.
date. Nine to date.
It's beautiful. That is a beautiful thing. All right. So, for everybody, we're going to be talking about a few different dishes from the book itself, kind of some signature items. We're going to talk about different parts of the Moringa plant, right? The miracle tree, the most nutritious plant ever tested, Malaysia's gift to the world. This is where we're coming from. And we want to kind of share some of the recipes that you've been able to explore with your own culture and your own history. You're going to walk us through one of the dishes and some of the ingredients and elements that it takes to make it. So let's get into it a little bit. But first, I want to take us all the way back, right? Moringa is going to be something very new for a lot of people. Yet
That's
for
correct.
you, it's been a part of your life since childhood. And now it's having a moment where people are starting to pay attention. They're starting to think about their health differently. They're starting to think about their agriculture, their soil, their biodiversity differently, and Moringa is taking center stage right now. So this is a good time for the Moringa world. But take us back. Your earliest memories of Moringa. Talk about that a little bit.
Um, I was born and brought up in Myanmar and lived the first 20 years of my life in Myanmar. So we grew up in our house. We had many moringa trees, and one, especially a huge one, as you enter the gate. And that tree was always full of flowers and leaves and pods and whatever. So that was my earliest, maybe about 4 or 5 years old, I think. And I think my mother always told us that moringa is good for you. In those days, I think when your mother told you that something was good for you, then we believed her, right? And
You
so,
weren't a rebellious child who said, "Well, then I want to have nothing to do with it."
not really, a little bit rebellious, but not in this context. Yes.
I hear you.
So she used to cook, or we used to cook in our house with moringa, but mainly we use the moringa flowers, and then we use the drumstick, the long drumstick with the pods, and
Seed
some of
pod,
the
yes.
leaves. Yeah,
Okay.
but it was like part of a normal other vegetables that we used, except for the fact that we knew that it was good for you. And so I grew up with that. And then during the war, we had problems. We didn't have enough food. We didn't have enough vegetables. Then my mother decided that we would use more of the moringa plant and more of the moringa leaves or whatever. So that was when we innovated a little bit more and also introduced a little bit more moringa in our diet.
This was out of necessity because there was a scarcity of food.
Yes,
You were rationing things like that
yes,
around
yes,
wartime. So Moringa became not just a plant that you had, a tree that you had in the yard that you ate sometimes or regularly as part of your normal diet. It became a survival tool, right? And for you, did you feel nourished by it? Did you recognize that at a young age that this plant was keeping you alive in a difficult time?
not in not 100%, but we knew that as we ate that food, it nourished us, it made us happy, and it fed us, it kept us satisfied. It was a meal that we could eat, which was comfortable, which was satisfactory. So these are the things that I associate with Moringa. A feeling of satisfaction. Even today, I find that when I want to eat something that reminds me of my childhood, that I will go back and make something with Moringa, and that brings me back to my early days of having a very comfortable and a very happy childhood.
Hey, let's do that. Let's fast forward, not to today, but to when you realized that Moringa needed to be a part of a global story and that you needed to be a voice for Moringa. When did you have that epiphany, that moment where you said, I'm going to do something more with Moringa, which eventually led to now to Moringalicious? So take us to kind of that moment, that catalyst that propelled you into this Moringa world.
When I came to live in Malaysia, again, I discovered, of course, the moringa tree, and we used it on sort of like a, once or twice a week. And then my girls who are from Philippines, they eat moringa every day. So there was always something in our kitchen cooking with moringa. But I think, Jensen, it was at the time when we had our lockdown and there was plenty of time for us to think. And then I began to think that I wanted to do something, and I was trying to think, what is it that I could do to, in many ways, I suppose, to make things better for everybody. So then I began to explore the moringa tree. And of course, by that time, in the last 10 or 15 years, suddenly the West has woken up to the fact that moringa is a miracle tree, it's a tree of life, and there's so much work being done on moringa. And when I read about moringa for different medicinal uses, for its oils, for its creams, etc., I began to wonder what happened to moringa as food. Nobody is really thinking of moringa as food. As a
Right.
supplement, yes, as maybe
Understood.
vitamins, nutritional value, etc. So then I began to think, and I was wondering whether we can incorporate some of the moringa leaves and the drumstick and the flowers into a cuisine that would be healthy, that would be nutritious, and that would be delicious as well. And the more I delved into it, the more I realized that moringa was something that could be incorporated into any type of cuisine. Then I thought, wow, that was a
That
wow
was that
moment for
was that
me.
was eye-opening for you.
That
It was
was it. And
global
I
instantly for you.
instant. Then I thought, wow, now I've got to show this to the world, to tell the world that you can incorporate moringa into your diet. Doesn't matter where you live. So that's how I came up with this book. Yes.
Okay. So we're going to talk about the book a little bit. I want to break it down for people. First of all, Moringalicious. What a hip name that is. Where did the name Moringalicious come from for you?
I one of my earlier books was Happylicious, which means happy and delicious. Then I wrote another book called Flowerlicious. Flowers, cooking with flowers, and delicious. So when it came to moringa, we toyed with the idea of calling it the miracle tree or the tree of life, and I
Right.
thought that's quite not really it. Then suddenly I thought to myself, why not moringalicious? Moringa and delicious. So we combined the two together, and we came up with moringalicious.
Old. Perfect. And for book titles, they have to be catchy. People are going to glance at it for just a moment as they're scrolling on Amazon, as they're walking through a bookstore. So, you need that hook. You need to pull
Yes,
them in. So Moringalicious, I love it. And let's talk about the book a little bit. The the way that you composed it, you tell quite a few stories, the history of it, some of the applications, the health aspects of it, and we'll touch on that a little bit. And then you break down the plants, and your recipes are categorized basically in three ways: the
yeah,
utilization of the flowers, the utilization of the leaves, and the utilization of what's called drumstick, which is the seed pod
yeah, yeah.
as well. Which, for anybody who hasn't seen, we'll be showing a couple pictures of finished dishes and things, but it looks almost like okra. That's like the look that I get when you cut it
Yeah, it's
across the
long. Yeah,
bias. It's long. It looks like okra when you cut it. So an interesting look for anybody who hasn't seen the drumsticks. And drumsticks is what I've used the least of. Definitely use the flowers and the leaves myself a lot more. So I was excited to see some of those drumstick recipes. The the health benefits of it, some of the impact that it has on us as individuals. I want you to give us a little of that, but then also on the soil, on the ecosystems as well. So touch on that for a moment, and then you and I, we're going to geek out and talk food.
Well, I think that there has been a lot written about the health aspect of Moringa. And there are so many scientific studies that have been done. And as far as I think I can remember, like 1,700 extra, etc., scientific studies or researches being done in different parts of the world, in different countries. And so in the book, I haven't gone into too much detail on the health part of it because all that is already available. But I did touch
You
on
just give little kind of bullet points
just
and a
a
couple
little bit to
descriptions.
tell you that, if you eat this, that it's good for anti-inflammation. Maybe it's good for if you have a headache. Maybe you may want to have a cup of moringa tea. And of course, if you go through the history of or read about moringa, they also tell you that it cures 300 diseases. I mean that's a lot. But I mean, what I think, because this was discovered by the Indians about 4,500 years ago, and they have used it for that many number of years in their Ayurvedic concoctions for sicknesses, as well as using it for other health benefits. And there are a lot of stories that associated with moringa and its health benefits. But I think for our purposes, what we need to know is that, and that's what I'm trying to say, is that it is a good idea if we can incorporate a little bit of moringa into our lives almost on a daily basis. But because I'm not a doctor or I'm not a scientist, so I cannot tell you it has to be 1 spoon or 2 spoons. But I think a little bit of it is always, it's not going to do you any harm.
You're a
And
cook, so what do we cooks do? We put it into food.
yes, so that's what we do. And then when I tried putting it into the food, I found that it was working. And, I mean, whether technically or whether it was whatever, but everybody felt that, even personally, I felt that I'm feeling much, much more energetic. And, I can do so many more things. And it's also good if you have some skin problems. So there's so many ways in which Moringa can help. So what I try to do, Jensen, is without going into the gory details of the scientific part of it, what I'm trying to tell everybody around the world is use moringa in your food in small quantities. Start with small quantities. Use it in whatever way you want it, in a smoothie or in a soup, or whether you want to make it into a tea, or whether you want to put it into a curry. But try and see how it helps you. Of course, the bottom line is this, right? If it doesn't do you any good, at least it's not going to do you any harm, because it is organic, it's straight from the tree. There are no additives. It's completely an organic kind of vegetable that you incorporate into your cuisine.
Right. Let's talk cuisine. Let's talk food, cook to cook. So the book itself has about 60 recipes.
About
That
that,
was kind of
yes.
the number, right? Broken down again into those three different categories. And when you were approaching the different recipes that you were doing, were some of them already recipes that those were the childhood dishes? Those were already dishes that included moringa. I'm guessing there's some of those, and then
Yes.
quite a few, and probably the majority of them, and many of the recipes I'm sure you'll be doing in the future are incorporating moringa into recipes that historically or traditionally did not have moringa in them, and you creatively finding ways in. And I love that myself, having worked, Moringa for Life and my family's company. Even when I was in culinary school, I remember working with Moringa, and I remember having a lot of issue with it because it's a bitter. It can be intensely bitter. So sometimes it was like I wanted just enough to make sure that the flavor was noticeable in there, but it wasn't overpowering. And also in the West, especially, and I'll speak to America, we don't eat a lot of bitter foods, unfortunately. They're really good for our diet. The liver and kidney health, which is why we have such high incidence of liver and kidney disease here in the United States. We don't eat enough bitter foods. We like salty and sweet and sour, and we forget about the bitter. And it has such amazing reactions. And one of the things that I noticed about moringa is it that bitter makes you kind of salivate, which makes everything really like unctuous. It's really amazing at bringing out umami. So I love that I saw a lot of different curries and heavily spiced dishes where it's really about building that medley of flavor and deep, deep, rich umami where that earthiness, I think, really comes out. And then you use a lot of, I noticed also a lot of fresh ingredients and a lot of just like finishing with some sweet or some sour that kind of is almost like an accent to it. So it stays balanced.
Yeah.
Amazing approach across the recipes. I'm very good at just synthesizing recipes in my head. I can literally look at a recipe and physically taste it. So your book is delicious. It's Moringalicious for sure. And let's talk specifically though about one of the signature dishes for you. And I know you have a couple of ingredients and elements, and we're going to talk about that. So tell us about kind of you chose a signature dish, and for you, why was that the nasi lemak?
Well, actually, nasi lemak actually is our national dish. Everybody in Malaysia eats nasi lemak. And more than that, I thought that introducing this to the world, this would be one of the better dishes to introduce because everywhere, everybody eats rice in no matter what form it is. So I thought that if
Sweet.
we can incorporate the moringa into the rice, then people around the world would be able to use this dish. But in Malaysia, we have nasi lemak. Nasi is supposed rice. Lemak is actually, in many ways, it's fat. So because we are cooking it with coconut milk, and of course, as you know, today coconut again is a very very nutritious fruit that we use in cooking. At one time, people did not like coconut, but now coconut again has become very popular. So actually,
Yes,
all the
coconut milk,
things,
coconut water,
coconut
coconut
milk,
oil.
yes, and of course, remember a country like Malaysia, we have a lot of coconuts in our country, and a lot of the Malaysian cooking utilizes coconut milk. So I thought that I will show everybody how to do a Malaysian nasi lemak, which when they take it to their own countries, they might be able to use the basic rice, and to that, then you can add what other ingredient that you want to, or whatever way, so that it becomes uh, nasi lemak, Malaysian nasi lemak, but probably America or probably India or whatever it might
Or you
be.
kind of, it's a building block. It's a basic
Yes, it's,
approach to
it's a building
utilizing
block. Yeah,
moringa in something
and of
that's
course, yeah. And
classic.
rice, of course,
Understood.
as you know, everybody eats rice, right? In whatever
Everybody eats
form it
rice.
is. So that's what I thought. So just let me show you what we do actually for nasi lemak is we take the rice. We take the rice here, whatever kind of rice that you want to, whether it's a long grain rice or short grain rice, whatever. Just wash the rice nicely, and then after that,
Wash
in
the rice, people. I can't tell you how many people I see cooking videos and they don't wash the rice, and it drives me crazy.
or you have to
Thank
wash
you.
the rice 2 or 3 times until it is completely clear. That you have
Yes.
got to do. And after
Thank
that,
you.
what we do is that we've taken coconut milk in Malaysia because we have fresh coconut, right? So we have taken the milk from the fresh coconut. But of course, in those countries where don't have fresh coconut, we can also a lot of coconut milk is available in cans or in packs. So that's what you need to do. And basically, to cook rice, 1 cup of rice will take about 1.25 cup of water or milk. So when you make your nasi lemak, you depends on how creamy you want it. If you want it to be more creamy, then maybe you will use a little bit more thickness, the cream of your coconut from your can or from your packet. But we use coconut milk, which is we grate the fresh coconut and then we squeeze the uh, milk out of it. So this is what it is. This is the coconut milk. And then what we do is that when we are preparing our nasi lemak, we use to make it a little bit more sweet. We use some shallots, small shallots. So we use small shallots, and then to make it a little bit more tasty, we also chop juliennes of fresh ginger. So we add a little bit of fresh ginger, then we
Love
add
everything you're saying right now.
salt and put a little bit of salt. And then in Malaysia, we use in our cooking, we use a lot of this, what is known as a screw pine leaf. It has got a very nice flavor. we
I'm
call
leaning
it,
in like maybe I could smell it if I got
yes,
closer to
it's
the
got a very
screen
nice
here.
flavor.
I am
So
not
what,
familiar at all. Tell me
yes,
more about this.
the screw pine leaf is, it grows very easily in Malaysia, and a lot of the Malaysian cuisine we use a lot of the screw pine leaves because it gives us a very nice aroma. And also remember, the screw pine leaves also gives it a nice green color. So if you make a
Will
paste of
actually
it,
leach color. The chlorophyll will come out of the leaf and
yes,
color the
out of
dish
this,
itself.
yes.
Are you
So
eating
when
the leaf itself, or is it almost like a bay leaf where you're going to put it in and then pull it back out?
we put it in and pull it out, we don't eat the leaf itself, but we can make a puree out of the leaf and use it for coloring out. Say if I didn't do nasi lemak and I wanted a green color rice, then I would just puree this and put it into my rice, which would give it
Can
a
you
nice,
liken the flavor and aroma of the
yes.
pine leaf to anything else? What does it taste or smell like?
Well,
Is
the
there something
taste
similar?
is not changed very much, but it has a very nice aroma. So when you're cooking this rice in your kitchen, you can smell the aroma of the pandan, the screw pine leaf. Yeah.
I'm going to need you
So
to send me some of that.
yes, even when I was growing up, that was what it was, Jensen. I would get up in the morning, and this whiff of beautiful smell would come through from the kitchen to the living room, and you could smell, and you really want to eat the food now and not wait for it to be ready. So that's what we do. So we add the milk into the rice, put the shallots in it, put the uh, ginger, a little bit of salt, the screw pine leaves, and what I do is I use a rice cooker. The easiest thing that we can do is a rice cooker. So this
The
is the rice
single
cooker.
most important tool in my kitchen and maybe
Yes,
anybody's kitchen
yes.
is the
So
rice
that's what
cooker.
we do. So this is a rice cooker, and it is so easy. So what I basically do is I have this rice cooker, and I'm going to add this rice into my rice cooker, and then I'm going to add this coconut milk, which is fresh coconut milk.
I'm very jealous of the fresh coconut milk. Not gonna lie.
Yes, and then a pinch of salt, just a little pinch of salt. Then to this, I'm going to add the shallots, which I showed you. I just chopped the shallots, so add the shallots. It gives it a little bit of a sweetness. And also the ginger, because when you eat the rice with the ginger cooked, it's got a very, very nice flavor. And also it's very healthy. And I'm just going to add in a few of these screw pine leaves. I'm just add the screw pine leaves. There's a big spoon there somewhere. Big one. And all we need to do is we just mix this all up.
So
And
no water. All the liquid that you're cooking the
yes,
rice in is
and you
all
see
from the coconut milk.
the
Okay.
water, the coconut. If you want a more creamy rice, you put more coconut. But if you don't want it so creamy, maybe you will add half coconut and a little bit of water. But as long as your proportion is correct, you put that. And what I did here is I wanted to show you. This is moringa leaf. So what I've done is I've taken the moringa leaf, and this is the moringa leaf, right? So we just take the moringa
Beautiful.
leaf, blanch it in
Yes.
hot water for about 2 minutes, and then make a paste out of it. So you get this beautiful color, this green color. Can you see this green color? Beautiful
Yeah, deep,
green
deep
color.
green.
Green, yes. So what we do is when you've put all your ingredients in your rice, you just add maybe about 1 teaspoon like this of your moringa into your,
Okay, so this is going to be a vibrantly green rice, not just like
yes,
hints of green. This is going to
yes, it
be
is. And then
okay.
and that's it. And then you just take this to your kitchen, plug it in and within about 10 minutes or 12 minutes, your rice is going to be ready. And normally this
I clap.
nasi
I feel
lemak,
like I should clap for that.
and this
I love
nasi
it.
lemak is everywhere in Malaysia, each one has got a different way of preparing the nasi lemak.
Right. So
But
you
I
got
mean,
regional or even like
the
one
regional
auntie and
plus
another
yeah,
auntie are doing it their own way.
fancy. Yeah. So you can buy nasi lemak in Malaysia in packets like this. So normally what happens is that this packet is you've got coconut, banana leaf, the fresh banana leaf. So you take the fresh banana leaf, and these are the hawkers. You can buy it for two ringgit or 3 ringgit or one basic. And everybody, when they come to Malaysia, what they want to try is the nasi lemak. It is so famous. So it can be from two ringgit to up to 25 or 30, 40 ringgit, even if you go to a fine dining and they give you the same nasi lemak, but plate it more beautifully and charge you. So it is a food that can be eaten and enjoyed by every single person in Malaysia and around the world as well. Because if you only want to spend two ringgit for your breakfast, then you just go and buy a packet of nasi lemak like this. And I'll show you when you open this packet, it's like this. Let me show you. Can you see? You open this packet, it is banana leaf, and you open it like that.
Well, you're really making Esmir work with the camera angles and pulling ingredients out. Esmir, shout out to Esmir behind the camera. It takes somebody good behind the camera to make us look good. Appreciate
And,
you.
and here you
Yes.
are. This is how it is packed in the banana leaf.
I
So
love
you've got,
everything about that. What a beautiful, it's like presenting a gift. I
yes,
love the use of the banana leaves. And I'll show a picture here in a moment of the finished dish from the book so people can kind of get an idea.
but I,
But
I also have something
love
to
that.
show you. And this is, this nasi lemak is the main thing, but you've got the normal ingredients that go with nasi lemak. So we have anchovies, fried anchovies, because we have a lot of anchovies. And then we have fried peanuts.
Mohan, I think they're trying to get you to sit down.
Yeah, okay. Fried peanuts. Can you see the fried peanuts?
Oh yeah,
And
okay.
then we
Fried
have
peanuts.
anchovies. And then we usually have egg. We boil an egg, and we use an egg half for our nasi lemak. Sometimes people, instead of the boiled egg, they like a fried egg. So whatever they want to do, they can. And then the next most important ingredient is the crunchy fresh cucumber.
Yeah.
So when you eat your nasi lemak, you eat it with all this, and of course, the heart of the nasi lemak is what we call is the sambal. Sambal is the chili sauce, and this is
Beautiful
homemade.
thing.
And this chili sauce is sweet. It is hot. It is sour because it has a little bit of sourness in it. So it is fresh chilies, onions, ginger, garlic, a little bit of palm sugar, a little bit of the tamarind, which makes it sour. So this is the heart of your nasi lemak. And if you can come up with a nice sambal, so I feel, Jensen, when people overseas cook the nasi lemak, they can make their own version of the sambal. You can
Yes.
make it a chili sauce, or you can make it like a pesto if you want, adding more sourness or more sweetness or whatever you want to. But then when you start eating your nasi lemak, and I will show you, just now we made the nasi lemak, right? And when we plate it, it is like that. You put it on a plate. Can you see it?
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes. Look at
So
that
you've
plate.
got the green nasi lemak, and you've got the crunchy cucumber, you've got the eggs, you have the peanuts, you have the crunchy ikan bilis, and then you have the sambal. So this is a complete meal. And even in the early days, when people went to work, they would take a packet of nasi lemak with them, and
Right.
when they worked in the fields or sometimes wherever. So when you eat that, you feel satiated. It is nutritious, and it is a comfort food. It gives you the crunch. It gives you the little bit of the sourness, the sweetness, and the lovely crunchy, the ikan bilis, which are small little anchovies, fresh anchovies. And the other thing that you must remember is this is all Malaysia. This is what we produce in our own country, in our own backyard. You don't need to go anywhere else to have this delicious food.
Well, I need to go somewhere else because I don't have that dish here,
Yeah,
Mohana.
come
That
to Malaysia and
I'm
we will
I'm
feed
on
you.
I am on my way. I think we made a
Yes,
mistake. I should have been cooking the dish as well. We should have cooked side by side because then
yes,
I'd be able to eat it. Luckily, I was smart enough to make sure I had dinner first because it's the night before here
I
in
know.
Denver, Colorado, where I am. I made sure I'm plenty full because otherwise I'd be in a lot of pain right now because this looks amazing. And this
Yes,
is so classic of, like you mentioned, street food or
yes.
working class type food because you
Anybody.
have this central element that's incredibly filling, and then it's
Yes,
all about the little condiments. You're creating the five tastes, right? You want
yes,
to make sure that you have the sweet, salty, sour, bitter, umami. All of those are going to like really fill you with the taste and the flavor and the sensations that we love, and also it's going to really fill you up to work out in the field and the job. But also basically everything there is going to be able to sit in somebody's bag for 3 4 5 hours if they need to
yes.
have it later on in their day and not have to be refrigerated over
That's
an
correct.
extended period of time. That's another element we don't think about a lot because we have such access to refrigeration, but it might need to sit in that packet, that banana leaf, for 4 hours,
Yes,
barely in the shade in a 110-degree day.
that's
So I
correct.
think that's another important aspect of the way we're thinking about cultivating these foods and the reason that they exist. And then
And
always,
you know,
please.
it started off as a breakfast food.
Yeah,
It was
that
a,
makes sense.
and I think as far back as 1961, I think the Time magazine said that Nasi Lemak was one of the top 10 breakfast international dishes because it had everything.
Sense.
It's got your carbs and it's got your protein and it's got your umami and it's got everything. So I think people who come to Malaysia, the first thing they ask is nasi lemak. I'm hoping,
Understood.
Jensen, that with this book, that when tourists come to Malaysia now, they're going to ask, I want to eat Moringa nasi lemak, so that it will be, it's just the same except for the fact that we have added moringa in our rice, made it a little bit more nutritious, made it a little bit more different, and I think it's quite pretty.
Absolutely. I think here's an opportunity that we have. You and I have talked about this before, where the opportunity sometimes that we have in the United States is that unfortunately we don't have in all places this deep-seated food culture,
Yeah,
right? It allows us to kind of absorb food cultures from around the world and be inspired and be fed by immigrants and refugees, and I'm always inspired by that. And so what I'd love to see in the United States is we don't need to add moringa to nasi lemak. That's just matter of fact the way that that recipe becomes known in the United
yes,
States. That the green rice is categorically the expectation that we have for nasi lemak,
yeah,
when Malaysian cuisine has its moment here, just like Filipino cuisine is having a moment right
yeah,
now in the United States, rightfully so. Malaysia might be next up to have a moment in the United States where Malaysian culture have been feeding each other these dishes. They haven't found as much of a foothold in the restaurant scene, in the food scene in the United States. That here we're here to tell them it's about time. Because look at
yes,
Nessie
yes,
Lebach, and the picture that you had in this was really beautiful. I wanted to show everybody really quick the pictures. All the pictures look really really great. Love the food photography you all did. Shout out there. But just absolutely, let me. There it is. Here we
yes,
go. Okay. Yes, the sambal on top, a healthy amount of sambal. This is a
yes,
spicy. This is a spicy breakfast.
yes.
This is beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and the banana leaf is so essential to that too. It is like
Because
the
when you
vehicle.
put, yeah, when you put the hot rice on the banana leaf, the it has a the banana leaf has its own little bit of a flavor that gets into the rice. It's better than paper or plastic.
Right. Yeah, and it insulates it. You know, it's going to
Yes.
help keep it warm, or it's going to help keep it cool. Again, that temperature control, I think, is something that just is undervalued in the way that we're composing dishes. And sometimes, you know, chefs like me, we forget how important it is to anticipate the way we're going to consume these dishes is just as important. And I love everything about it. The only thing I don't love is that I have not had your Nasi Lemak yet, but I'll
Well,
be making it myself, and I'll
yes,
probably text you for some pointers if I run into issues. It's
yes.
such a simple preparation, right?
And
And
you
you can
know,
get so much
Jensen, that
flavor out of that.
yes, and the stories that is related to Moringa. Everybody wants to know how it started or when it started. But as far back as 1909, somebody wrote in a book called Circumstances of Malay Life, and they mentioned the Nasi Lemak. But there's also a folklore that people talk about Nasi Lemak in Malaysia. Apparently, there was in Malacca, there was a widow who lived with her daughter. And the widow used to go out to work every morning and leave her daughter to take care of the house. So one day, the daughter was cooking rice, as she usually does. And by mistake, or because of an error, she spilled some coconut milk into the rice.
Isn't that
And
always how it
because
happens?
that's how it happened. So when the mother came in, and the mother said to her, "What is this fragrant?" The whole house was smelling of this. And the lady said, "Nasi in Malay is rice." And so when we talk, sometimes we use the word le or la. So she said, "Mother, la, it is lemak. It is nasi lemak." So that's how it became nasi lemak. Lemak is the coconut part of it. So she said it was only rice, but then because of the coconut milk fell into the rice, so it, that's one part of the story. That's how it evolved. And of course, other people will tell you that because people who went to work in the fields, or coconut grew very happily in the kampongs. There was a fish available very easily. Rice was available, so they put everything together to come up with a kind of dish that was satisfactory, that was nutritious, and sustain them for the whole day.
I I love when there's competing histories or fables around a dish. I never even care which one, if any of them are true. Just the fact that people are trying to put story and
Yes,
context and history and words to food means they are important. It means we
yes,
value them, right? We tell stories about the things that we value, that we believe in, that connect us. Nothing connects us more than food.
food.
So I
Yes,
love when I hear, where this dish originally come from, and there's four completely different variations and completely different groups of people taking credit for it. And I applaud all of them because it means that it matters, and it is a part of our now oral and written history and our traditions. And that's something that also goes, I think, unnoticed or undervalued a lot because we have commoditized food so much
yes, yes,
that we forget that it is about the tradition that you have between two people, between yourself and your body and your well-being and your health, your community, your family, your culture, your country, whatever that might be. And when we have that level of pride in the food that we create, like, that means it'll live forever.
yes,
These dishes will live forever.
yes.
and,
And
and
we
that's
in
such a beautiful
Malaysia,
thing about food.
in Malaysia, we are very proud of our nasi lemak, because whenever people come
Rightfully
in and they
so.
ask for nasi lemak, and the other thing with nasi lemak is that you can chop and change, you can mix and match, and you don't necessarily have to follow it to the T. If you don't like boiled eggs, you can put a fried egg, or you can make an
Right.
omelette.
Condiments you can make your own.
So many different things. You can make a
Yeah.
chicken curry, or you can if and nowadays, when people are vegetarian and vegan, we can do a very happily a vegan or a vegetarian nasi lemak.
Because
And
the rice
we
already is, and
the
that's
rice
the
is already
vehicle of
there,
that.
and then we can use some tofu, and then we can use some other kinds of vegetables, and make it into a very healthy meal. I think our connection with food is very important. And for me, whenever I have written, whether it is frutastic or whether it is vegemania, it is a connection with the country that you come from, the foods from that country that we make our own. And I think when we talk about Nasi Lemak, for example, I think it is a source of pride for us because everything that you see on that plate is Malaysian, produced in our own country, and we
Yes.
have made this from very small beginnings. Now of course it has become very popular, and I'm hoping that it's going to become much more popular and that people around the world will try this nasi lemak and come back and tell us what they think about it. You can do
Yes,
your own
absolutely.
version.
And love, we got lots of people commenting. Thanks everybody who's dropping comments. They're following along. They're loving you, Mohana, of course. They're tolerating me. So thank you everybody
Thank
for
you.
being here. But I had to share this one. James Brady on YouTube said, I had to relocate to the kitchen and prepare my Moringa Tang tea and enjoy Mohana Gill share her Moringalicious recipes. I feel you, James. The kitchen is probably the place to be when you are watching this episode. Absolutely, and I hope people will watch this episode back, and I know that they will later on. Get your copy of Moringalicious, and you can prepare the dish, and then listen to Mohana and watch Mohana actually, talk about the coconut milk and all that. The inspirations that we get that motivate us to get in the kitchen and cook, whatever they are, wherever they come from, and whomever they come from. I applaud them always, absolutely, because having my own young kids and wanting them to get in the kitchen and I don't know if I'm giving away a secret, but Betsy told us yesterday that our gift that we'll be giving our families, one of the gifts we'll be giving our families, is the Cook Every Day the Cummings Way, our first family cookbook. And
Oh,
so
how
this
lovely.
weekend, Mohana, we're going to be working on these recipes. Now, this is incredibly difficult for me, Mohana, because I'm just a natural chef. Betsy will always be like, I saw this thing on Pinterest or this dish on TikTok or a YouTube video of Mohana. Can you make it? I was like, just tell me what it is. And I've never put together a recipe. I just cook with intuition and instinct and experience, right? And so now I have to put all these recipes down. So this weekend I'm going to be channeling your ability to put recipes to paper. So I might also have to message you this weekend and say, how do you get over the fact that it's this much? How do I say this much? I don't know how much this much is, you know? It's just a
Yeah,
chef's teaspoon is that
yeah.
much. Okay. I want to amazing. Nasi Lemak. And please, anybody, more questions in the comments, drop pictures of your own Nasi Lemak. We want this dish to become one of the dishes that puts Moringa on the map in a brand new way,
Around the
puts
world,
Malaysian
yes.
cuisine on a brand new way. So what a great introduction that's going to be for so many people is Nasi Lemak. But we want to talk about a couple of other things. So this was with Nasi Lemak, right? We're talking about the leaves, right? You made that paste, and you're using fresh leaves. For anybody, you could also use dried. You'll want to convert that recipe a little bit, but we want to talk about flowers and we want to talk
Yes,
about drumsticks. So with flowers, the recipe that we have picked, I want to show people a picture of that as well. Is the moringa flower pickle.
yes.
This was just so great because I want to pickle and ferment everything always. I think it is the greatest way to preserve food, to celebrate food, to bring new textures and flavors, to humble ingredients. And so let's talk about this. Looks like some lotus root was the pickle specifically that you're doing here. But talk about the flowers a little bit, and then the pickle as kind of one of the signature ways to utilize the flower.
um, the of From the moringa tree, the most difficult part of the moringa tree is the flowers, because number one, you almost have to cook them as soon as you pick them, because they don't last very long.
No shelf
and
life, none
and all,
whatsoever.
yeah, no shelf life at all, although I see that people are freezing it or freeze drying it and using, but of course it's nothing like having your fresh moringa flowers. We have many moringa trees in our garden where I live now, but sometimes we get flowers, but not very often. But I've got to say that we have been very lucky when we were doing the photo shoot for the book. And every time we did a photo shoot, our tree would oblige us with one bunch or two bunches of the flower. And
Moringa is a
so
living, breathing thing. It knew you were in need of some
yes, yes,
flowers, huh?
yes. Today I tried very hard to look, but today she did not oblige. There were no flowers on the tree. But
Hopefully, next time I have earned the credentials from the tree to give us flowers next time we talk.
yes, and of course the flower has a very special meaning for me as well. Yes, and a little story about the moringa flower. It was during the time of the Japanese occupation, and all the universities and schools in Rangoon were closed, so all the children came back, and we lived in a little town called Basin. And in the house that we lived, like I said, there was this big moringa tree that was always full of flowers. And my mom had some of her friends come over to for tea, and they looked at that moringa tree and they said, "Wow, how beautiful! Can we have some of the flowers so that we can go home and make something out of it?" And my mom said, "Of course." So she got hold of a young boy who's about maybe like about 10 or 11 years old, and asked him to climb up on the moringa tree to shake the tree so that the flowers would fall down, and also to pluck small little moringa flowers. And we, as children, three of us, me and my siblings, we were all underneath the tree picking the moringa flowers. Now, as you know, the branch of the moringa tree is very brittle. So this little boy, he climbed up on one of the branches, and the branch broke. And this guy fell. But he it was not a very high fall, but he fell and he was fine. But unfortunately he fell on the leg of one of my sisters and broke her leg,
Oh,
virtually broke her leg. And it was a time of, and so that was real panic, rushing her to the hospital and so on. So whenever I think of moringa flowers, I think of
a little bit of
this
trauma there
story.
for you.
But the flowers, there's so many things that you can do with the flowers. But in our house, we use the flowers for pickling because uh, they're difficult to get. So whenever we had flowers in the tree, then my mother would say, "Okay, now let's make some pickles so that we can keep it and then use it for the next 6 months or whatever it is." And of course, the pickle is very simple. And but again, with the pickle, you can mix and match and add whatever you wanted. I added the little lotus roots, which I think are very nutritious and crunchy and very nice. And these are the young lotus roots. If it is a big lotus roots, they are very, very hard. So this is the young one. So it's basically you wash your flower very nicely, because sometimes in the flowers there might be some little insects in that,
Definitely.
and then we blanch the flowers, immediately take it out and put it in ice water. Then you do your pickle, which is usually chilies and all kinds of condiments. You put in some black sesame seeds, and you put chili powder, and you put turmeric, you put a little bit of vinegar, whatever combination that you want to. If you want it to be a little bit sweet, you can also add a little bit of sugar in it if you like, vinegar if you want, and then mix everything together. And the um, uh, lotus root, you got to blanch the lotus root as well.
Sure.
And then when it's all ready, you mix it, you add in salt. And we in India and in Burma, we make our pickle with mustard oil. But
Okay.
because
What's the
mustard
significance of
oil,
mustard oil?
mustard oil, yes, because mustard oil has got a different kind of a fragrance and a different
Very
kind of a
different.
flavor. But if you don't want to use mustard oil, you can always use any other oil. I would imagine you can even do it with olive oil if you want to. So it was just a question of preserving the flowers, and you can almost consume it the next day. It's nice and crunchy, and it's got this nice uh, sweet, sour, chili kind of flavor. You can add a little bit of garlic in it if you want. You can add some green chilies if you want, whatever you want to do it, and you come up with
Are
this.
the moringa flowers intensely flavoring that brine for the
It
for the
doesn't
pickles,
have
or is
a
it more
very
subtle?
strong, not a very
Yeah.
strong flavor, but there is a subtle flavor. It's sometimes a little bit like maybe like a mushroom, maybe. But because
Oh,
you're
that
not
earthy.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. But because you're not eating large quantities, so with every bite
Right.
that you have, you're only going to have maybe one flower or one and
And
a
if you're
half flower.
blanching in them and they're going
Yeah,
in brine,
yeah,
they're
yeah.
gonna shrink down almost
Yes,
to nothing, so to speak. But you'll get the health benefits of that for sure.
yes,
And to your point, you'll get the vibrancy of that for months and months and months,
yes,
versus what we know is a very short time period that the flowers are blooming before they drop, and they
yeah,
point no shelf life whatsoever. Okay,
yeah. But you
flower
can
pickle,
also
absolutely love
put it
that.
in curd. You can put it in yogurt
Yep.
and mix it in yogurt, and then have it with your meal. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean the flowers. It's like whatever you just cooked,
yeah,
grab some flowers off and garnish it with that. Like
yes,
they're
yes,
gonna give you that fresh flower vibrance, and seeing a lot more of that. You're seeing a lot more people utilizing edible flowers, microgreens, things like that. Just
yes,
that little bit of freshness on top of something again that might be intensely umami or fatty, anything like that. It's just that little bit of brightness is really nice. And again, you're thinking about those five tastes, you're thinking about the sensations that you're having, you're thinking about the visual aspect of it. All these things are important. Flour, absolutely critical to that. But when you got them, you better use them because they're not
yes,
going to be around for very long. All right, last, the drumstick. Again, an ingredient that I haven't really used too much when it comes to cooking with moringa. So I was fascinated to check out all of these recipes that you had here, and we went with the tour dal with drumsticks. What is it about that dish specifically that you felt was really important to kind of feature for the drumstick as that kind of third part of the plant?
yeah. Because this is the one that I grew up with. In every Indian household, we always dal or lentil is one of our main ingredients every single day. We always have dal. And in those days when we were growing up, we didn't have electric ovens, we didn't have, so we cooked with wood fire or we cooked with charcoal fire. And every morning, either my mother or whoever was helping her in the house would light the firewood in the kitchen and then put on a pot of dal because the dal takes 2-3 hours to cook. So as you get up and you come into the dining room, again the smell of this dal, which is boiling, and the dal, you have onions, ginger, garlic in your dal, and it really, makes you, the whole house permeates with the beautiful smell of the dal. And then when the dal is ready, then what we do is we use tempering for the dal, and we use onions, ginger, garlic, tomatoes, and other kind like cumin seeds, and maybe a little bit of fenugreek seeds, or whatever you fancy, and curry leaves, fresh curry leaves which grow in our garden. So you temper that with a little bit of oil, but in our houses we use ghee rather than oil,
Right, clarified
clarified
butter,
butter.
yes.
Yes. And so all those smells really make you feel hungry, make you, even today it reminds me of home. And then what my mother used to do was is the drumstick. You take the drumstick from the garden, and then you chop it. In fact, I'll show you. Sorry, Liana, just ask her to bring drumstick. Moringa. I'll show you the
Love
drumstick.
that. Just
So
just
you
step outside and grab one of the drumsticks that's just,
Yes, yes.
outside.
And so you cut the
Absolutely.
drumstick, and then you add it into your dal and you let it cook. So you will eat, so when it is ready, it is cooked, and there are little seeds inside which you will eat as well. But talking about the drumstick, Jensen, when your tree, when you have a moringa tree, and the drumstick starts to come, it starts to uh, not blossom, but when it starts to grow, then the very young drumstick, very, very young, you can pluck that and you can cut it and you can fry it like beans. You can eat the whole thing. So it's
Yes,
like
please.
French beans, the whole thing.
Yes,
And
yes, absolutely.
yeah. And then later on, when the drumstick becomes older, then of course you can't eat the outer skin because it is quite rough. So then you cut it into pieces, put it into your dal, and let it cook together with your dal. so that the end result of it, as you can see in the picture, is a beautiful dal curry with moringa drumsticks. I think that is the most common way that people use the drumsticks. But they also use the drumsticks in the fish curry, and they can use the drumstick also in so many different kinds of way. In fact, in my book, I experimented and made a biryani with the drumstick, which I must tell you was delicious. So
I
you
can
can do
imagine.
anything that you like. But yes, but the drumstick is like this. Yes, here is the drumstick. This is the drumstick.
Mm.
It
Looks
can be
like a
longer
reed.
than it can be longer than this. It can be
Amazing.
shorter than this. And
Yeah.
then when we cook, then we cut it like this into pieces.
Yeah. So
And
you're
then
cutting in them into inch long pieces, something like that,
yes,
and then
like each
allowing
one.
them to simmer. So you're going to break down some of
Yes,
those
yes,
fibers.
yes,
The
yes,
seeds are going to
yes,
soften and tenderize. That's going to be an
yes,
important part of the process.
yes,
So that's why it makes sense in things like a dal or a curry,
yes.
biryani. You're basically trying to make sure that they're simmering and stewing for a long period of time. That's going to create that tenderness, because
But
otherwise
there are
those
also
will be
yeah,
really tough.
but there are also some people that use this differently. What they do is they chop it up and they boil it
Sure.
until it is cooked, and then they cut it open and scrape out the inside
Mm.
of the drumstick, so that you are discarding this outward one.
Okay. They're just looking for
Yeah,
that inside. It's almost like scraping a vanilla bean. You're
yeah,
looking
that's
for
right.
all of
And then
that
you
kind of
use
goodness
that in your
inside.
cooking. You can put it in your dal
Understood.
to thicken it if you want, or you can put it in making chapati or whatever you want. So again, this one thing you can make so many different dishes out of it, and you can experiment with
So
whatever goes
so
for you.
beautiful.
Yeah, and yeah, but the end result of it all is it's nutritious, it is delicious, it is fresh from your garden, from garden to table, and it's good for everybody, for the children,
Mhm.
for adults, for everybody.
Yeah, and because you have that fiber and the seeds and all that,
Yeah,
it's also going to be very filling. So
yes,
it's going to almost act as a protein sometimes in those dishes where you have something kind of meaty and chewy in there. So even you mentioned some of the vegan or vegetarian, it's
yeah,
going to really like kind of carry the dish. So it's not just a lentil soup, it's not just a rice curry, but there's something that's got some meatiness into it. And I've always found that anytime you can take any vegetable and almost treat it like it's meat and make it
yes.
unctuous and make it umami and have that toothness to it and that texture and that bite, it's really going to satiate, which I think is important a lot of times. So yes,
You can
wow, you
scrape
and I
and
could
put
talk
it in your
for
soup as well.
days
Yes,
and days about food. So I want to just really quickly touch on this because we're coming up on the holiday season, and you and I got to talk about that a little bit. And you mentioned specifically that that rainbow salad for you was kind of all the colors of the rainbow, all the colors of the holidays and Christmas and all that. Tell us quickly about that one, and just get people thinking about their own holiday meals and how they might incorporate moringa into them.
well, I was thinking, for almost every meal that we have a salad. So with the Christmas season coming up, why don't we think of a very colorful salad? So we can have the green and the red and the yellow peppers. You can have your cucumber, and you can have like cherry tomatoes, which makes it red. And then I also use. I'm sure you're familiar with this fruit called jicama.
Come on, yes.
Yes, and jicama is also we use it a lot. So if
Brown
you
husky outside,
brown,
white
yes, brown,
inside,
and
almost
then
got like an
yes,
apple pear texture
that's
to
right.
it.
And
Yep.
you can eat it. It's very crunchy. It's
Yep,
very
a little.
crunchy,
It's
and
like a little
any
bit, kind of almost has like a chalkiness to it, a little bit. It's
yes,
great in
yes,
like slaws. Absolutely.
yes. We do a very nice slaw. We do a mango salad with
Mm.
jicama. So if you add in a little bit more jicama, and perhaps you might add in. Then I thought once you've done all that, then you pluck your fresh moringa leaves from your garden, wash them nicely, and garnish your salad with lots of moringa leaf, and then put the kind of dressing that you want to. The easiest dressing is just olive oil and salt and pepper and lemon juice. Or if you want to add in something else, you want to put in a little bit of balsamic vinegar, perhaps you can do that,
Mhm.
or any other, or a
Delicious.
pineapple kind of a dressing. So whatever you want. But I think when you come up with that kind of a salad and you look at it, you can see the beautiful colors, the red of the tomato, the greens. You can even add in broccoli if you like. But the greenness from the moringa leaf and would is almost the uh, the what was I going to it makes the your salad so much more nicer because that is the one that gives you your nutrition and that gives makes you it's like a feel good kind of a salad and everybody can enjoy it and it's so easy to prepare.
Yeah. And the dressing you mentioned, this is a place where I'd highly recommend, depending on your availability of this product, you probably aren't getting the drumsticks right now. You're probably not getting flowers right now, or potentially even fresh leaf being in a lot of the winter places. Take some of the powder, get your hands on some powder, absolutely, some leaf powder, and incorporate that into your dressing. Think about
Yes,
it like you would some ground oregano, marjoram, sage, those type of things that you might utilize in a holiday winter type salad dressing, vinaigrette,
yeah,
and utilize the moringa powder in that. That's going to give you that, and it's really great because of the amount of fat and
yes,
acidity, and maybe honey or agave or sugar, some kind of sweetness is going to really mellow out and balance out
yes,
that moringa. And if you're the type of person who likes kind of a kale salad, something that's got a little of that bitterness, maybe you don't use the kale. You can use some other greens, some chard, some romaine
yes.
lettuce, and arugula, and then that moringa is going to give you that bitterness like a kale might in a salad. So I highly recommend that for that. You also inspired me. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what I'm making for
Yeah,
Christmas. Every
yes.
Christmas Eve, we do like a one pot. So we might do a cioppino, a bouillabaisse, and I am doing a gumbo. And so the key to my gumbo is that I stir the roux for 30 minutes, butter
Wow.
and flour until it is like toffee. The aroma is unbelievable, and it is one of the best gumbos you could ever have because I'm willing to stand there for 30 minutes and stir and stir and stir. It is a labor of
Wow.
love. I typically will use a gumbo filet, which is ground sassafras, which has
Yeah.
that earthiness and bitterness. So I'm going to, in place of that, going to be using moringa powder in our family's gumbo for
Lovely.
Christmas Eve. So that's breaking news right there. So any of the family who's going to
Sounds
be there
great.
for Christmas Eve, now you know you're going to
Yes.
have some moringa in that gumbo. All right, this is an amazing conversation. I have a surprise for you, Mohana. Thank you so much for all of this, and I need to bring in none other than Mariko Gifford,
Hi.
the
Hi,
founder
Mariko.
and guru behind Moringa for Life.
Yes.
The two of you are so simpatico, it's scary. And so we wanted to bring Mariko on here uh, to give you something.
Yes. Oh, Mohana, I've said it a number of times in this little bit of time that I've known you. You have been my Moringa wish come true. And
Wow.
and
Thank
and it
you.
has been such an honor, especially now. So another wish I've always had is for recipes. And you heard my son say he doesn't write recipes down. My other son also doesn't write recipes down. And so
Chefs
you
are the
did
worst.
yeah, you did it all for them and in such a beautiful, elegant way. And so we see that this is something that will carry on through, as a legacy. And so we decided that we would give you the, an honorary Moringa for Life ambassador
Wow.
certificate because
How
you are
exciting.
truly an ambassador. My daughter is emailing it to you, so you'll have your own copy of it. And it says, "We honor you and bring you into our family of Moringa lightworkers. Your Moringalicious legacy brings light and warmth to the world. You have made Moringa not only delicious and stunning, but accessible and fun. Your Moringa vision will live on through the ages as this beautiful gift is discovered and shared with family, friends, and communities around the globe. Your contribution moves us all forward and upward together. We welcome you to the worldwide Moringa movement."
Thank you. Thank you. How sweet. I'm so touched. Thank
Thank you
you.
so
I have
much.
enjoyed meeting all of you, talking with you, and you have helped me so much, Mariko, in making my dream come true. As you know, my dream is to make Moringa to present Moringalicious as Malaysia's gift to the world. And I think this is the first step in doing that. And I'm sure that more and more people who will listen to the podcast, listen to what you guys are saying, and hopefully in the future we will be able to do that.
We will. And I wanted to show you my Moringa flowers, San Diego. It's and my
Show
seed
off.
pods.
Look
Yeah.
at you.
We
We
do
still have
have,
snow on the ground outside here.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
it's going there for you, but we have seed pods right now. We actually harvest the seed pods now to eat. I mean the flowers, because at the other times of year we keep them for eating. It's, so they'll become seed pods. But this one, oh, what happened here? This one, this is an edible seed pod. It's not as long and beautiful as the ones that you have, but we do our best in Southern
Yes.
California. But I just wanted to thank you also, Jensen, for me to have my son be talking so much about moringa and all the recipes that can be made.
This is the
moringa.
longest stretch I've ever talked about moringa nonstop, an hour and 5 minutes.
Thank you, Jensen. God bless you. Have a lovely, lovely Christmas. And in the
Yes.
new year, let's catch up and let's do more things about Moringa.
More moringa. All right, everyone, we're going to wrap this up now. Once again, this was Moringa for Life, Moringalicious for healthy living, longevity, wellness with renowned Malaysian author Mohana Gill. We got a little taste of Mariko Gifford as well, the founder of Moringa for Life. The two of you have already done amazing work and so much more to come. And so many of us are just grateful to be a part of this journey with you all, because truly you're changing the world. So appreciate everybody for tuning in. Please connect with us on social media. Connect with the Moringalicious book. It is available at Amazon. Link in the comments so you can go and purchase and support that book, that work. Lots more to come from Moringalicious, I am sure, and the collaborations with Moringa for Life. So everybody, take care.